Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for coming along this evening. We're going to have a chat with Cathy Evans, who runs Inkspot Publishing and has her fingers in many pies. So we'll talk about all sorts of different stuff. To start with, Cathy, can I just ask you to talk a little bit about your background as a writer, editor, publisher, and how did you first get started in the business?
Okay, well, I got started as a writer first. So I have always been a writer, but I realized sort of mid 30s that if I didn't actually get off my backside and do anything about it, I would, and so I wrote my first novel, The Wrong 'Un, which took me 11 years to write. And, but I was kind of busy. I had a career in finance. I got married during that time, had a baby, got a degree, or second degree, I should say. So, I mean, there was a lot going on. And so I wrote my novel in 11 years. And by the way, that was from the first sentence to getting it published. And
That's not so bad then.
no, I suppose not. Yeah. And uh, my novel started as a short story, and I was part of a group at City University, which and the overwhelming feedback I got was that my short story felt like a chapter one rather than a complete story, and I thought that was interesting, and so I sort of ran with it, and that's how the novel developed. And I got it published with Unbound, who very sadly is no longer in existence, as you probably know the history of that. It was
Yeah, they went
taken
into
over.
liquidation, didn't they, recently?
Yes, but actually, that didn't. I mean, I feel really sorry for the writers involved. There are an awful lot of writers now that don't have representation, but I actually got my rights back from Unbound some time ago when I set up Inkspot because I thought, well, first of all, actually, one of your questions, Chris, was, how the experience of crowdfunding a book, and actually, the experience was really good for the production of the book. They were fantastic. It had a great cover. The editing was great. Everything was, the finished product was amazing. But where they were not so good is the marketing. They gave no marketing support whatsoever. And I was very naive. I thought that if I wrote a good book, it would sell itself. And my word, how incredibly naive that I look back at my younger self and go, ha, 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 ha. So, uh, all books, no matter how good, unless you're fabulously lucky, um, need the best marketing possible. And Unbound were really bad at that. They just produced the books and then it was on to the next. They were, even if they'd given us a package saying this is how you do it yourself, that would have been something, but there was nothing like that. And so I was quite happy to take my rights back, and actually Unbound they were completely, they just gave them back without a struggle at all. I don't think they remotely cared. But I was very lucky because they had actually had an audiobook produced as well, and they gave me the rights to that as well for free. And I think audiobooks are really important.
Yeah.
And we've got audiobooks for two of our books. It is, and the one we're just about to publish, Under Vixen's Mere, is having an audiobook produced by W.F. Howes, and that'll be ready next year. And it is, I listen to audiobooks a lot, and so I realize how important they are.
So you're talking about kind of professionally produced by humans audiobooks, not a computer
Yes,
voice.
these are
Yeah.
all professionally produced by humans. And yeah, although I think the AI thing is, I mean, have you've heard of sounded.com and other groups like that? I think it's like trying to fight against that wave, I think is going to be impossible. And eventually either voice will, you know, only be available for very niche and expensive. It's a real shame, but I think this is the way that it's going to go.
Well, yeah, on KDP now, Amazon's platform, you push a button and you've literally got an audiobook in a few
Yeah.
minutes.
I mean, I don't know how it copes with things like accents or emphasis or things like that, but AI is just getting better and better at that sort of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So
And with some of these things, you can give them prompts now on how you want the characters to sound and all that kind of stuff. So it's developing very, very quickly, I think.
well, so far we have done all of our audiobooks the old-fashioned way.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So so going back to the wrong un, it really didn't do terribly well. It was with Unbound, as I mentioned, and so when we took the rights back, when we started marketing it ourselves, we actually gained quite a bit of traction for it, and we started doing well with Amazon ads, things like that. And we left the book alone because we were busy working on other books, and it just now I think it's got something like 250 or 300 reviews on Amazon. And once you get to a level like that, it kind of, I hate to say sells itself, but it's our most neglected book, and it has, over the long term probably sold more than all the others.
Yeah, I think the reviews really help the algorithm and it just brings it up against other books then.
Yeah, and actually what you want is you don't want 50 5-star reviews. You want that classic J curve,
Mm.
which actually means that it's been reviewed by real people who have a genuine reaction to your book, and actually a few negative reviews, quite ironically, actually helps you because it really means that it's actually being read by real people rather than bots. So
Yeah, it does. I've got a few howlers and they do help.
yes, I know, and I mean, who wants a book that appeals to everyone? You need a bit of polarization, don't you?
Exactly. If you get a one-star review, you've provoked a reaction. That's the way to look at it.
Precisely, yeah, exactly, exactly. So
Okay, so um, the crowdfunding thing. How much did you have to raise
I
to?
had to
Okay,
raise, this will probably explain in some ways why poor old Unbound went into liquidation. I had to raise 5,000, um, and we did it by having various pledges. And actually, the biggest part of the amount, probably about at least 3 grand, went towards the editing. 100 towards the cover. There was a bit for typesetting, and then there was probably, the rest was Unbound's profit. But they had a huge, it wasn't enough money for them to be profitable. And also, I I hate to say this, but when you're spending what is effectively not your own money, you're not always making the wisest decisions. Whereas actually, so the crowdfunding model, I think there's definitely a place for it, but you have to be really careful about, where you're spending the cash. And, you know, and I think that then when it was taken over and became, what was it called? Boundless. It
boundless. Yeah,
Boundless. And now they just decided it was too difficult and shut up shop, which is such a shame.
yeah, it is because they did. I know, despite what you've said, they did help quite a lot of authors, didn't
They
they?
did, yeah, and they they had some really good books as well. Some really good books, and it is a great shame. And in fact, we are actually talking to a couple of authors who are looking for representation at the moment. So
Through Inkspot.
through Inkspot. But saying that, it is actually really difficult commercially to re-release a book. It's not the easiest thing at all because you can't take on the ISBN. You have
Mm.
to, and so therefore it's and also you can't always take on the reviews. If we re-release a book on Amazon that's done phenomenally well, you lose all that reviews, all those history. It is just crazy. They don't make it easy for you, put it that way.
No, when my publisher shut, Victorina Press, I was able to contact Amazon and ask them, because I had the permission to do it from Victorina Press, they had to verify it, but they moved all the reviews over for me when I put it out on my
Yes,
own shelf, but I don't know if it's the same when you're dealing with a publishing house.
the same thing happened to me with the wrong un when but now they don't let you do it anymore.
Oh,
So that's why re-releasing a book is really it's like cranking up the whole machine from scratch again.
oh, what a
And
nightmare.
it is rather, and so I don't, and I'm sure they'll change it again because it is a very nonsensical and very anti-commercial decision because Amazon want to sell books as much as And you would think that they would try and make it as easy for you to sell books as possible, but actually they don't.
Yeah,
So,
that's really interesting.
yeah.
So after the Wrong 'Un, when you released it on Unbound, what was the next project? Was that Penny Shorts that later became
Oh, yes.
Picture
Penny
Junkies or?
Shorts. Yes. So that was a really interesting. So actually that was, I think Penny Shorts started before I released The Wrong 'Un.
Oh,
I was
right.
still working on The Wrong 'Un when so Penny Shorts was a short story website. And it really, the whole idea behind that was that I'd been part of these writing groups, three writing groups, in fact, two in London and one in Chipping Norton, where I moved after I had my daughter. And every week I was hearing these amazing short stories, which really had no home at all. And they would just fester away in drawers. And it was such a pity. And so I thought, how hard could it be? This is the story of my life. I always think, how hard could it be, dot, dot, dot. And then I bloody well find out how hard it is. So, but by the time you find out, it's too late. So So I set up a website called Penny Shorts, and I invited any writer from anywhere to submit stories, and I separated them into various genres, and I published them online after editing them, taking out the typos, and sometimes I'd make a few editorial suggestions, um, and and it was a really fun project, and it kept me very busy. The initial the initial project was supposed to, the idea was for people to pay 50p a story, you know, but as anyone who tries to publish anything online, that you are competing against so much free content, and a lot of it is really good free content. You just have to go on Substack to see how much really quality content is available for free. And initially, when I opened I would see that all the surnames, the buyers were buying, like it would be mums and aunties and things like that, and I really quickly realized it wasn't a sustainable business model at all. But it was fun to do. And so I thought, this is, so I just changed the name to Fiction Junkies. And Fiction Junkies still exists, although it has been somewhat neglected of late, but it will definitely have its moment in the sun again, because I'm working on the Inkspot's first short story competition, and I would really like to release the winners on Fiction Junkies. And that's probably got about 250 short stories on it. And it is really fun. And it's, each story is accompanied by a picture and a little bio of the author. And the whole idea behind it is to provide a showcase for writers.
Yeah, which is a great idea.
Yeah, but
And if you make
really
a little,
silly to think I would get paid for it.
well, you never know in the future. You never
Yeah,
know.
exactly, exactly.
And
So,
so, oh, right, before I go on, Linda's just asked a question in the chat. Should an author just be grateful that their book is being published when a small publisher doesn't offer royalties or initial payment?
oh, that is a very tough question to answer. I don't think an author should ever feel, well, gratitude is a difficult thing. It depends on, um, I I would love to be able to pay royalties or initial payment, but it's just not commercially viable. Um, and until it is, I I mean, I just publish work that I really love, and hope to make money for it from it, not only for myself, but for the author. But actually, if you have a look at most small presses, most of them cannot afford to pay royalties. And actually, the big presses that do pay royalties, most of the time, the authors never earn that money back, ever. And so many of those books are lost leaders for the really fantastic, bestsellers like Yellowface, or, the books that everyone's heard of. And actually, publishing is in a bit of a tailspin about this, because the vast majority of book sales are by, the top five publishers, and indie publishers are really scrabbling around for the rest. And there's so much content out there that I mean, certainly if I was to pay an upfront payment for an author, I would probably only do it if I was really sure I'd get the money back.
Mm. Yeah, so really, all the indie publishers I've dealt with, some of them give a generous royalty based on once they've recouped all the money they've spent on it kind of contract.
Yeah,
But, it really is tough to sell the books, isn't it?
very tough. And actually, we pay royalties right from day one. So even if you only sell one book, you will get the royalties on it, because we hope, obviously, we hope that these books will sell, and we are getting better at it. But it's a learning curve like anything else, and you find out, what works, what doesn't work, and you have to be quite hard-headed about it. And actually, I've got a really amazing assistant who happens to be my niece. We've sort of accidentally turned out to be a family business. Um, and she is brilliant at crunching data, and so, which I'm rubbish at. And the reason why this is important is because she can figure out which adverts work, which ones don't, where the interest for all our books is coming from, where we should spend more in advertising. And, seriously, I wouldn't even begin to know how to do that stuff.
Hmm.
And it is really important. So,
Yeah.
and even with our short story competition going on at the moment, she can figure out where the referrals are coming from, so
Yeah, you can see that kind of stuff in Google Analytics, can't you?
yeah, well,
Mm.
if you know how to do it and
If
if
you
you
know
know
how
what
to do
you're
it,
looking
yeah.
for. Yes.
So why don't we backtrack just a little bit? How did Inkspot come about? Because it's been around since 2022, is that right?
Yes. Okay, so Inkspot came about because I wrote another book, All Grown Up, and I got a publishing deal for this one as well. And this was a more traditional setup. And at the 11th hour, literally before we were designing covers and all the edits had been done, the publisher sent the book to a sensitivity reader. And the sensitivity reader made several recommendations. And I really had to fight my corner to defend my book. And actually the publisher just got really nervous, probably because the culture wars were raging, and they just pulled the book, which was pretty devastating, actually. I was really... Um, so I thought, rather than go through the whole agonizing process of submitting, and by the way, I really get it because I've been there, and I've, had multiple rejections for books and whatever. But, when you suddenly think you've got the deal and then it's pulled away from you, that's pretty tough. So I thought I would publish it myself, but I didn't want to self-publish. So I thought what I'd do is in fact, I went to see an author. I don't know if any of you've heard of an author called Nicola May. She's
Wow.
a she's very similar to, well, L.J. Ross writes crime, and Nicola May, I actually haven't read one of her books, but she has about 9 or 10 books, and they're sort of feel good. That's really, that sounds so derogatory. I don't mean that at all. I think they are crime, but they're more cozy crime. And she did a talk at Stratford Literary Festival on self-publishing, and she was really helpful. She went through a lot of things, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do that, but I'll set up a company so I can do it for other people as well.
Right.
And that was one of my how hard can it be moments. And that's how Inkspot was born. And actually, I've been writing a book, well, helping my publishing partner, Giselle Virginia, write a book for years. And when I told him what I was doing, he was like, I'm in, I'm definitely in, going in. So basically the two of us share the expenses, and um, we split the profits.
The huge
So
profits.
we split the massive profits. Yeah, exactly. And but the thing is, we're 2 or 3 years in, something like that, and but we've got a long-term horizon. We really want to give it our best shot. We don't want to just fold. And we are both really passionate that we're creating something of value, even if it's not wildly profitable now. Actually, it's not profitable at all, let me tell you, but we're getting there. We actually are improving, we're getting better, and we're releasing a book next week under Vixen's Mere by an author called Kit Fielding. And I think this book is going to do really well. So there you go.
Watch this space.
Watch
And
this space. Yes.
so how many books have you published so far?
Under Vixen's Mere will be our 6th. And I'm just trying to think, one of our books was a short story compilation for the Chipping Norton Literary Festival. So yeah, we have 6 books as well as that one. So
All from different authors?
2 are mine, so the
Mm.
ones I mentioned. And then we have yeah, 3 other authors. You'd think I'd be able to name my own books, wouldn't you? So yeah, and one of the authors actually was a winner of the Chipping Norton Literary Festival, and that's how I got to know her. And she's based in Colorado. So and actually her story was fantastic. And afterwards, she got in touch with me to say that she'd written a book, and she really struggled to get representation for it because, well, it was quite a tricky topic. It was about Jonestown, which, you know, is a novelized version of the Jonestown tragedy. And so I published that. And I published a book called Fireweed, which was actually, so I've done 2 books that are republished. And that's how I know how difficult it is. And then Annie's book, and then Under Vixen's Mere next week will be our 6th book.
And that's a brand new book.
That's a brand new book, yeah. And
So
in fact, now, unless there's very compelling reasons to republish books, or if, you know, I probably wouldn't do it again.
unless it was like a big name or something.
Exactly. Or if Amazon changed their silly rules about, because, you know, and it sounds like I'm really fixated on Amazon, but actually they are responsible for 80% of book sales worldwide, and you just can't survive without them, which is a
No.
real, it's
Yeah,
so
you can't ignore it, can you?
you cannot ignore Amazon, no.
No.
Which is how Jeff Bezos is so rich, he can go up in space whenever he feels like it.
Well, maybe Inkspot Publishing will get there after this book has been launched, you know.
Maybe, yeah, when Inkspot Publishing's on the side of the rocket, you'll know that I've sold enough books.
So how do you go about selecting books? You know, how many submissions do you get over a year, and how do you manage the reading process and the selection process?
Okay, that is a good question because
The first question, which I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Leslie, you can pick me up on this because you speak French.
is
Alan
it Annie
Ryan.
Ono?
So yes,
Annie Ono, yeah, I saw that.
yeah, there you go. So Alan Ryan, he said, I'm currently reading The Years by Annie, how do you say it? Arnu.
No.
Ernu. It's very enjoyable. Her writing is described as auto-socio-fiction. Does Cathy believe there is a place in current short stories for this style of writing? If so, what most grabs your attention?
Okay, there's definitely a place for it. So socio-auto fiction, well, it's not auto fiction, is sort of fictionalized memoir, I
Mm.
suppose. And there's definitely a place for it. It's actually really interesting, and some people do it really brilliantly. And the thing that would grab my attention is, for example, a pivotal moment from someone's life, or a very atmospheric recreation of a particular time or place, or, you know, and I think the people who do it really well are ones who are able to evoke a sense of time or place, or and in great detail, so that you almost feel that you're physically there. So, and people do that well in fiction as well as auto fiction. So, you know, I don't know if any of you have read The God of Small Things, you know, Arundhati Roy, but one of the great pleasures of that book is how she didn't ignore any of the senses. She was always telling you how things smelt or how they felt, and and I think a lot of authors ignore that.
Have you got anything like that in your pipeline? Be it memoir or whatever it might be.
Um, no, actually, my pipeline is more nonfiction, or I've got in my pipeline is The Funeral, which is a book about um, two warring sisters who have to plan their grandmother's funeral. Um, and I've got a book about the Irish Troubles, but that I have to nag the author for. She needs deadlines all the time, and the
Mm.
book is just getting longer and longer and longer and longer. So, and in fact, that was one of the questions, wasn't it, about the length of books?
Yeah.
And also in the pipeline is my third book, which will come out next year. So, but if I found something like that, I would seize upon it.
How do
Definitely.
you find time to write around all of this? Because you've got a job, you run a publishing company. How do you carve out time to write?
Because I love it so much.
Yeah.
So, and you don't need, well, maybe I'm just getting more efficient at it, because it took me 11 years to, as I said, for the first book, took me 5 for the second, and now I'm chucking them out every 2 weeks. That's a joke, by the way.
Every 2 weeks. Wow, you
That's
could
a
do a
joke. That's a
series.
total joke. Yeah. But my next book is something completely different. It's actually it's a literary spoof. My next book.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. So it's not my first two books, I suppose, could be described as domestic or urban noir. So this is a real departure. So yeah,
That's nice to have a bit of fun with something different, isn't it?
yeah.
Right, the next question is actually one from Kelly. Kelly, I nabbed one that you asked previously. Uh, Kelly's question was, would I fare better with a publisher if I had an established website or online presence? And a lot of writers ask this. They're worried about, if they haven't got a following, is that going to put you off publishing their book? Well, thank you very much for your time, Cathy. That was really interesting.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much, and thanks for the good questions.
Yeah, thank you for everyone coming along. We'll say goodbye now and I will stop the recording.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you very much.
A real pleasure.